right. Hey, thanks, Matt. So everybody, thank you for being here today on the Brooklyn broadcast. I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring in Matt today and just, pretty free form, answer questions, just talk shop, guitar, anything like that, as opposed to a bit of a lesson, unless Matt wants to talk about something. But, always fun to kind of keep it live and switch it up and bring in my good friend, Matt.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
And hopefully the audio and everything will be good. I'm doing all I can. This is some crazy stuff, so it looks pretty good I'm hearing, so that's good. And if I seem like I'm talking over Matt, I'm not. I'm trying to get the audio lined up. So there you go.
There's always that little delay in there. I feel like I'm talking over everybody every time as well, which is very un-British of me.
Right, exactly.
We try not to do that.
Right, which is we're supposed to I'll just blab like an American all over the top. Actually, my friend Armando, who was just online, he was helping me line this stuff up, and he's like, "I can tell you're an American or sound like Italians because we're talking over each other."
Yeah.
All right, so everybody's here. We got BV, we got Armando, and Phil Mingan is moderating the post. And the first thing I wanted to start off with, as we do all the time, is Matt's got some stuff for sale. And we want to talk about that. It's all the links that Phil's got them in the feed, and it's also in the description to Matt's TrueFire courses. And you have a new set of pickups I want to talk about. And
Yeah.
let's start with that. Let's start with your pickups, man.
Yeah, well, they're kind of a new availability of an old set, So from Mark Foley in the UK, and it was a set that my Sunburst SVL guitar, when Simon Law made that back in 2013, I think that was. He requested a wind. Actually, he wound some himself at first, and then had Mark kind of do them to that spec. And so that was my main touring guitar since then. And the blue SVL here from the past year also has this same set. Turns out they were just a little bit different than what became the reserve sets that Simon and Mark were using for a bunch of years. So when we discovered they were actually a bit different, I've had a couple more sets made by Mark since then. And so during this period of not doing very much else, we Mark's just suggested that we make them available. So it's actually exactly what you've been hearing me play live. If I'm not playing my old Strat, then the pickups you've been hearing is that set. So that, just vintage style Strat pickups, really very accurate to the 60s vibe. But the middle pickup is a little bit hot. That's what sort of makes this set cool for me, is this middle pickup is just wound. We're not talking like super overwound or anything, but it's just a little fatter sounding, because that middle pickup thing is it's love-hate, I think, for people, the middle pickup on a Strat.
Sure. Yeah.
This makes it really fat. So actually it's a good example if you go listen to a song called Getaway on my last record, the Far As I Can See record. That's the middle pickup of that set through my SOV pedal and into my 2-Rock and Super Reverb. That's a good example of how that middle pickup sounds, So yeah, they're available from Mark over there. It's kind of cool that they're out there.
Excellent, man. That's great. So what have you been up to?
Well, staying home a lot.
Right? Yeah.
But well, for some family stuff, I was up in New York for a month or so I didn't get much playing done that whole time. Some life stuff to take care of. But other than that, actually doing some recording here, like learning to record at home, and that whole can of worms, right? Mm-hmm. So been starting to lay down some tracks for a record for a friend of mine who's also my manager, Jay Stallman. He had some stuff that we'd started working on 4 years ago, actually, and it's like, let's get that finished. So this will be like the first actual stuff that album stuff that I've tracked at home, you know what I mean, rather than going into the studio. So trying to get that to sound as realistic as possible, which, all this stuff is amazing that I've got the aux and the UA, mm-hmm. But it's a long way around the houses compared to what I'm used to, and I'm not normally engineering it myself as well, So.
But doesn't Jay live next door to you? Right?
Yeah, Jay lives across the street.
Okay, yes, that's great. So that makes things so much easier,
Yeah.
So what do you plan to? Like, a lot of guys were a little bit of a thing on Les Paul, like getting a sound to my Les Paul, and I'm using my aux. So you're using the aux as well. What amp were you playing with? That the Signature or the Sterling?
That's the classic Sig. Yeah. I find that with the aux, that sounds better than the Sterling, and I think the Sterling is just really too much amp for the aux. Do you know what I mean? They could make me a 300 watt aux, and I think it would accept it. I think we've talked about this before. The aux seems to respond more favorably to less power going into it. So that sounds to me like the dynamic range and also the EQ level. So it's pretty easy to kind of just stuff it up with the Sterling. You know, like you can't kind of manage the tremendous bottom end energy. You know, because when you got 4 6550s. That's a lot of very instant bottom end, you know, that just doesn't give in any way. There's no sag in that thing at all, you know. So that doesn't work so good with the aux. So that seems to be. I'd love to have like a deluxe reverb or something actually into the aux. Would be like a nice old blackface deluxe. I'm sure that would be fabulous, you know.
I found, so just everybody knows what we're talking about. We're two rock users, and Matt, of course, is you're pretty much your signature amp is the classic reverb Signature. Your main, like you're the one. You got the switch in the middle. That's your preset. Yeah. So, and then running the aux is interesting because it's a great unit, but it is a bit. It's taken me a little while to get it to where I like it, because as you said, it's so different than miking an amp. It's amazing once you figure it out. And for the longest time, my problem was I didn't know shit about recording, like and then so I called up a friend. I'm like, well, I can't make it sound good. It was Grissom. He's like, have you tried these mics or these mics? It's like the virtual ones. I'm like, no. He's like, well, that's what you would probably want to use as opposed to a 57 or whatever it was. So I just treated it as its own thing, and I started to come to get sounds. I mean, you know. So I'm really pretty happy with the sounds. It's been really great, and
once you get it there, I mean, for all its, for whatever it is, I would be lost right now without it. Let's put it that way. So I'm happy to accept its quirks, and it does take some tweaking, especially for me in the bottom end. The main thing that's missing from it is that it's very hard to get sort of that piano-y, Stevie Ray Crossfire, bottom end, where it's big but like leveled off enough that you hear it, and it doesn't just fall apart. So I've finally got that. It takes some EQing on the inside of the aux on the graphic there, I think, and some basically high pass, low cut, everything below 50 hertz as well, all the way across, and then it starts to sound like a loud amp with a lot of bottom end. Well, but you couldn't do it. I could literally do nothing at home that would have any kind of quality of what my rig sounds like either at a gig or at the studio without it. I'm sure there's some other. I've used the 2-note stuff because I don't have a UAD endorsement. Just for the record, I bought and paid for all my bass stuff. Just putting that out there. Although I'd be happy to work with them.
Are you listening, UAD? You listening? Hello.
But there's nothing I could do. And for somebody who isn't super techie, I know enough to be dangerous about recording guitars in the real world. Yeah. But recording into Pro Tools myself and doing all of that, or I've been using the UA Luna thing as well. That's been a whole learning curve for me as well. So the aux does make it fairly easy for the likes of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Pull up that app and there's your speaker cab and your mics, and off you go pretty much there,
And the thing that we know, but I think is something I forget, like since the aux is its own thing, I will have the bass way down lower than I normally would to the speaker cabinet for real. Like, so I just have to tweak with my eyes and go, okay, that's 2/8 in the bass. And I kind of almost fought the idea at first of like, well, this is the way it should be. It's the same cabinet I'm using, and it's just stupid. Because then you're like, oh, wait, if I turn the bass down, oh, there it is. And it could be just even that little hair that actually makes that big difference,
Yeah, like you have to forget, you have to make it sound the same by listening rather than, so my bass is down considerably lower. And also then when you hit it with overdrive pedals, I find I have to set them quite differently than it to sound like it would coming out of the cabinet, so it sort of upsets the gain staging that I'm used to in some way, but it still allows me to do anything at all.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm just loving it lately. And then, like you did say, I've got a deluxe. I have a Princeton here at the moment, and that's unfortunately not mine, but it's a nice. It was here when it was with my brother's, and it sounds amazing to that. Because I think, like you said, a lower wattage, simple amp, like it you plug it in, like, oh, that just sounds great. Because we use them at TrueFire sometimes, and I've had no problems. And this is total inside baseball. I know this is boring to everybody talking about the aux, but
all my TrueFire courses are my classic reverb into the aux. So that's about that. But that's in fact that's the first time I ever used one. And Tommy down there at TrueFire pulled up the app, and I was like, "What cabs you got?" And okay, let's try that. Put those mics on it. Okay, cool. Let's go. So I didn't even fiddle with it. I just said yes to him, and off we went. So
in modern day for us now, it's really made such a huge difference because I feel like I have somebody asked me to play on their record or a few tracks, and now I feel like I can confidently do it without, because plugins can be really great, but they're never quite
not the same.
Not the same. They can sound really good. And it can sound good in a mix, but if you want something that's really guitar-driven, like if it's a pop tune and I'm just playing something, a plugin can be more than fine and be really great. But there is something missing, especially if they want you to play on something the way you play. They want to have that guitar sound, and it's difficult to get through a plugin.
Yeah, for sure. I've never got on with the feel of those, like dynamic range under my fingers, because that area of drive or overdrive or not overdrive where my tone lives, it's the hardest one to get out of that stuff for me. That just break, the clean sounds can quickly become pretty flat and lifeless with that stuff to me, compared to all the magic that's happening to the signal by the time it travels through a two-rock chassis and all those tubes. There's so much going on, even on a clean sound, And then, going in by a couple of nice little touches with the UA plugins and stuff like that. I've been really liking putting a bit of the Dimension D on there. Mm-hmm. Got the tiniest bit of that in there. Like, if I turn it up, you'll hear. But just enough that you can't hear it, you're not aware of it, but that's super cool. Because that thing, man, is I played through a real one in Germany a couple of years ago at this thing I was doing it was with the Pedal Show guys, actually, and I was there with Harry from Mad Professor, and that's the sound of Texas Flood, that Dimension D.
It is? Oh, I didn't know that.
Listen to it with that in mind, and they've put his vibroverb and the dumble he was using, is that it gives it that stereo thing, and it's like chorus, but it's not chorus,
Yep.
On Pride and Joy and the title track. I remember reading that Stevie liked it, but definitely Texas Flood, I say, is the rack Dimension D, not the little pedal, which is cool too, but that putting that in line without a mix control is too strong of an effect for me, so I like it blended in on an auxiliary, but that's pretty cool, man. That's
great. Somebody's asking what microphones we're using, so I'll just look at what I'm on the aux. I don't know if this is boring anybody. Right now I'm using a Marshall cabinet with the greenbacks with the condenser 67 and the ribbon 121.
Let's have a look.
And that's this. You know, and that's the Bloomfield Drive.
And I have a 121 Royal Ribbon and a 57 off-axis
Okay.
on the Super 80 412, which is I've been usually using the 212. That's like the 2-rock 212 or the, but I actually started to like the 80 watt speaker 412. It's a bit cleaner, you know, and I like clean speaker cabs and clean speakers.
Nice.
And a good bit of room in there as well. The room sound, you know what I mean? Because if I take that out for a second, you hear my the reverb on the amp, but the room sound just makes it sound more realistic as well, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's big. And you're thinking like, what's missing? And that's what missing with a lot of plugins too. When you're like, what is? There's something wrong. Like, oh yeah, the room. You're not hearing any room. So yeah, it's been great.
Anyway,
we sound like a UA
that's
ad.
enough talking.
I know.
I bought all this stuff. Again,
Yeah, exactly.
talk about something we can make money from.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this for a second, because I'm not trying to get everybody to buy your stuff, but I think people love talking about this, and especially the gear when we get a chance to talk to you live about it. I absolutely love your pedal, man. Your Supreme, which is on my travel board. It's between this and the Vemoram, but this thing is great.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. You know, I've got other things that I pull in and out for messing around and this stuff, but it just works. It just works on everything. It's on now, you know, the Supreme, but I just have the guitar volume down, so it sounds clean. But all the way up, you know, it just works. And I still have a few left, by the way.
For sale at mattschofield.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Just PayPal me. You know, it's because Harry, you know, shipped out boxes of them for me to take on tour. That would have been at the merch table all year, and there's no tours. So I have boxes of Supreme, so there's still a fair few. But it just works. Actually, I know you did your little segment with it, with the kind of a classic rock tone out of it. And then my good mate Ryan Perino,
great guitar player,
up there in Connecticut, he's been using it for that as well, like doing kind of all the way from like kind of 80s rock type tones, you know, to all the kinds of stuff that he does. Great player, Ryan.
Sure.
Check him out, you know. Which I had no idea it even did, but it seems to really come into its own on that side of things as well.
Well, there's what you're referring to, guys. If you look in my channel, there's a demo of the pedal that we did for TrueFire. I'm talking about gain staging and where you put your pedals and things. And I purposely tried to get more of a hard rock tone out of a classic rock tone, because when I started messing with it, I didn't really realize I could do that so easily. So it's a great pedal. It's really versatile, and it's got the boost and it's got the overdrive, or you can stack them, where you can have two separate. Super smart, and small.
Yeah, it's a lot of tone in a little box, you know. But it's funny. I was doing some stuff on Jay's thing, and I it was like a big shuffle in E, you know, kind of thing. And the Supreme was it was just a little smooth on the left side, which is what I normally like, is the, you know, not too mid-rangey, just basically like the amp turned up a bit more. So I pulled out the Jesse Davey Duelist on the Tube Screamer side, so I was just using that last night and 2 nights ago. And I'm like, man, there's something still about Tube Screamer, you know, for sure. And Jesse's Duelist, or he does the soloist one now, is that, and the Ibanez Vemuran Tube Screamer. It's very expensive, but that's awesome as well. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like when you need a certain sound, the tube screamer still does that thing that only a tube screamer does, you know. So I hadn't plugged one in ages and ages, and I was like, that's that sound, because it cuts that bottom end, you know, in a really cool way. So especially if you're playing, you know, that stuff, you don't want all that bottom end in the track, you know, but it makes it sound fat in the right way. So there's everybody started putting bottom end back in their tube screamers over the years, you know, in the boutique ones. But the fact that it took it out in a certain way, I think, was the charm. And Jesse's you can set to really be like the classic. In fact, Josh Smith showed me how he sets it up, and it works great. You know, on that, you put it on glass. There's the 3 little switches, and you put it on the glass set, makes it real bright, but turn the tone back down. And man, that's that sound, Texas blues in E. So that's kind of cool, you know, not having been a pedal fiddler for a long while. Now I'm sat at home with a shelf full of them next to me, and I'm like, all right, let's plug that in and see what it sounds like.
Well, I think that's been one fun thing for me, at least for the pandemic. The one thing, you know, like at least I've had a lot more time to dial things in that you didn't have time. And then I'm thinking, wow, you know, home recording is going to be much easier and cooler. So I feel much more confident in products that I produce from here, or and understanding how pedals work, and that you go into a session, whatever a session is these days, and I can bring in the aux and a few pedals and feel like I'm much more in control of all this stuff, because you have the time now.
You do, and having these, you know, listening back through monitors and it being somewhat realistic, as though like when I would be making a record and my cabinets are in the main room, you know, and I'm listening back through the monitors. Yeah, I'm really getting to hear some of these pedals that I've amassed or been given or what have you, and plugged in on a sound check or something like that. Because before, that was really the only chance I got to try things out. And if it didn't stick right away and stay on the floor that night, you know what I mean, then quite often it got put aside because I didn't really have any set up anywhere to fiddle about, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm almost never in a rehearsal room because me and my band never rehearse. So
nobody rehearses.
We tour, you know, we just meet and play, you know. So yeah, that has been cool getting to check it out. And I even got this guy out. I need to plug it in. Check this out for the pedal nerds. That is the original Providence Stampede SOV1. This is the precursor to the SOV that was my signature pedal with free to tone. This was designed by Yuki, but this is like vintage boutique now. This is probably 2002 or 3 or something like that. Mains powered, incredible pedal. It was basically one of the first, you know, attempts at a Dumble type overdrive sound. I think, you know, before the Zen Drive, before any of that, Yuki did that. So I just it's on my first couple of records, you know, in places, and so I'm about to revisit it and see what it does, you know, because I haven't even heard it in 15 years.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of I've not been, you know, when you're actually on the road playing gigs and making music rather than messing with guitar. If you see what I mean, I've not been pedal geeking or nerding, you know. I've been getting on with trying to play music for all these years, so I'm embracing my retirement and just having fun with it.
Yeah, put it to some good work, good use. So what is there anything you've had to cancel all the tours and stuff? So is there anything where do you think this is all going? Even though we don't know, but I can't see anything happening for another year.
I do not expect to do any kind of touring in the way that I have been for the last couple of decades until 22. Yeah. I just don't see. I have my next gig booked is in January in Massachusetts. I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't see how we're all going to get in a room in the winter in Massachusetts. And so that will be rebooked again. I mean, it's tricky because like friends like Kirk Fletcher over there, that he's in Switzerland, and Johnny Henderson, who's, you know, been in my band for years and played with Kirk. they've been doing the odd festival in Italy, and so, well, we've talked about, do I go over there back to mainland Europe and stay for 3 to 6 months, maybe next spring through the summer, on the off chance that I could do some festival work there,
Right.
actually base myself out of there. But there's so many additional, I'm in the US on a visa, so I don't know if I could come back.
Yeah. It's complicated. Yeah.
But this is my home, but I'm still here on a visa, so it's like I might not even be able to come back to my own place. It's because I'm not a citizen, and yes, or it's like you fly over there, I have to fly to the UK, quarantine for 2 weeks, then go to Europe. There's so much to think about and so much uncertainty that it's, what do you even do? Where do you even attempt to do anything? So
it's not worth it.
Yeah. You just don't know. It's all a gamble,
Yeah. And then what if you get, like I said, you get stuck there and you can't get back in here, and if there's a spike there, it's just such uncertainty. It's unbelievable.
Because it's going up like crazy in the UK again now. So it's like, I could go back there, and then I'd be on lockdown again over there. So.
Which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm lucky where I am here, at least in South Florida. It's going to be nice weather for the next 6 months here, so it's possible to go out and have some kind of life, although I'm extremely cautious about these things. And the other thing on my mind with it is, my job is bringing people together. At the end of the day, that's what my real thing that I do is bring as many people together in each place. And I don't want to be responsible for what could happen by doing that. You know what I mean? For better or for rightly or wrongly, whichever way,
Yeah.
I just don't want to be.
It's called being a good human being.
Yeah. And believe me, I would love nothing more than to do a gig with my band tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think we're all going nuts.
A half an hour slow blues solo, because it is so in me to do that right now.
Yeah.
But I just, I don't want to do it. So, we're looking at maybe some outdoor, just local things. Wouldn't be my band necessarily, just to play maybe through the winter down here because we can, you know. It would be outdoors and socially distanced, sensible. Even though Florida's opened all the way back up now, which I'm not sure about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So let's. I'm gonna go off camera and just read the questions so you can see me squinting. I got a bunch of people asking questions. All right, so let me go back up the top. Beside everybody, we got Sean Tubbs. Hey man, what's up, Sean? Steve Ogden, S.E. Nesbitt, The Mules, William Thrasher, Peach Guitars here. They say nice shirt.
Oh yeah.
Representing. Jack Obens here. What's up, Jack? Jason Carter, Daniel Garcia, Tracy Farmer. What's up, Tracy, man? What's going on, dude? Baby John. I love all the names. BV, excuse me. I was pronouncing wrong. Graham Ross. What's up, Bill Spruce? What's going on, Bill? All right. Oh, and Eli's here. Hey, Eli.
That guy.
That guy. Yeah, the coolest guy in the business. Yeah, that guy. Okay. Matt, does your middle pickup hum cancel, or is it more vintage?
On the in-between settings, on some guitars it does, and some it doesn't. This guitar it doesn't. This is a vintage Strat. Mm-hmm. Most of the MS-61 set, as it's now known, the Foley pickups that I use in my touring guitars, they do. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I think I kind of like not hum cancelling. Actually, I'm starting to. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm about to replace all the middle pickups in the 10 different Strat style guitars that are all over the. It's starting to look like the Cold Shop video, Stevie Ray's Cold Shop music video in my house, because everything has come out of cases and they're just lying around because I'm not taking anything anywhere. So I've got but so I think maybe non-reverse wound middle. Mm-hmm. I think it sounds, and I think the in-between positions sound better. And so, like I say, I'm not going to change them all, but I might in the future not do it anymore because I only play rhythm on the in between sounds live. So my loudest tones and gainiest tones live are all humming anyway. So I mean, I don't personally gain that much by having it, and I think yes, the in betweens just sound more like an old Strat. In fact, I'm getting really, just to digress slightly, but it's related. I'm just getting into everything being like it was kind of made originally, for better or for worse. Because I'm like, you go down these rabbit holes of, I've had a tone pot disconnected, or a super 5-way switch, super switch, where I can not have the in betweens on the tone, or a couple of my SVLs have like 50s wiring, like the Gibson 50s wiring, but for a Strat, but where the tone pots are after, or whatever it does. And I'm sort of putting everything back to like a stock 61 Strat setup with the big cap, the 0.1 or whatever it is, just as it came, and then going from there and dealing with it. Because I'm like, everybody that I really like, all the old tones and stuff, Hendrix, Buddy Guy on a Strat in the 60s, Stevie, they're all just playing stock Strats. I mean, they've all got treble bleeds. I hate treble bleeds. So I'm kind of getting into like everything being straight up vintage, and then not worrying about it anymore. And it's like, well, like that is how that sounds, and now I play music. I mean, so like untweaking everything.
Well, how about the tone knob on the bridge? You going to keep that or no?
Yes, you're right. That's the one exception. That's essential, but that's just moving one wire on the jumper.
Right.
So it's.
Do you have it? So for mine, I do it like the Eric Johnson. That's the only thing I've kind of new frets and stuff, but I've just there's no tone knob on this.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just move it over on
the
switch from the middle to the bridge.
Now, can you explain? Because we have you explain why you like the tone on the bridge?
I'll show you why. So neck pickup, because everything's wide open here, and this is stock 61 Strat wiring, exactly as it would have come from Fender. In fact, the tone pots are the original 1961 tone pots. The volume knob died, but the rest of it's right. And bridge pickup. Still sounds great, but it's very a lot of slice on it, But roll it down to 7. And we're starting to like fatten up a little. And that's why it just takes that very that's a bit lower than I normally. I usually have in like 7,
Yeah.
It just takes that very highest presence off, and just sort of you can go back and forth between. So that works good for me. That's essential.
I did a video last week on getting the tones out of a Les Paul, and it's the same exact thing. And where I have the tone knob on the bridge, and I dial everything in for the neck pickup so it doesn't become like a flute, So it's the same thing because it'll be too bitey and bright. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just the simplest mod, but and pretty much, Eric Johnson, Jimmy Vaughan, lots of guys. It's the one mistake that Leo made.
Right.
The rest of it, it's what an incredible invention, Strat. I mean, come on, it's like the gate, But it's really, really, really great to do that, and you're set. So I'm getting back into everything kind of stock, using loads of cable as well.
Right.
I like the sound of long cables. Maybe we talked about that before.
I don't think we have, but if you want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I just realized that, super high fidelity. Again, it's everything that I enjoy listening to.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't done with ultra high end 12-foot straight to the pedal board and a buffer cable. So it's just started to sound right. I noticed it when I started using the Sterling Live, and I had my delay back on the amp, and then a short jumper cable to the input of the amp, and the delay. It's not a strong buffer, but when it's on, it's buffering the signal slightly. I was like, man, the top end's got weird. And then I put another 15 feet of cable after the delay, even though it was still sat on top of the amp. So I had like an overdrive pedal, 20 feet of cable, delay, 15 feet of cable. And I was like, oh, that sounds right now. It was just too much high-end fidelity coming after the buffered signal. It's just kind of nutty, but I just ordered like 50 feet of George L's cable and made a couple of 25. So I still use a nice, either the sinusoid or I've got the Vovox here from the guitar to the input of my pedal board.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's still a 24. And then everything, again, the range on the volume control seems right to me when the cable's a certain, if I have a 10-foot cable just because I'm recording and I'm sat, my amp is there at the end of my finger,
Mm-hmm.
It's too much. And Hendrix is going through like 100 feet of curly cable if you pulled all that out, and it sounds right.
Yeah.
You look at Stevie Ray videos, he's got huge long cable from the guitar to his tube screamer, and then splitting to 6 amps with the only buffer being the tube screamer, with loads of cable. And Albert Collins, 100-foot cable off his telly with the treble crank. So,
but true bypass, man. True.
Yeah. Hendrix, he's got the wah-wah plugged in with no true bypass. If you've ever plugged into a vintage wah,
oh yeah,
that. But if you have a 100-watt super lead on 10 with it dimed all the way across the board, you were into that with a 10-foot cable direct. That's bright,
Yeah.
So all these things kind of contribute. So there's a classicness, even down to my biggest change in since quarantine world started is I've started using celluloid picks mostly instead of I've used the blue Tortex or Curtex Kurt Mangan for years and years, since basically I've been playing to any degree, and that was just a pick to me, was the blue one. And then I thought, well, other than Robert Cray, I know he uses those. Most people that I've loved all these years are just using regular, like Fender celluloid, either medium and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just bought a bunch of them and
regular size.
I really like it. It's a different sound. So maybe it's not. Maybe I'm going to give up the classic Matt Schofield sound.
Oh no.
But listen, this is the. In the low end, it's especially different. So the Tortex stuff is like furrier sounding, like it's like more spread out sounding. It's warmer, but looser, fluffier, and then the celluloid is like. They're just different. It's a tiny little difference.
It's tough to decide on which one to kind of roll with because they both sound great.
That's why they both sat next to me, And then this is the sort of thing that when I'm recording on tracks, like doing this stuff today, or I've been doing some other tracks for a few people here and there, I'm starting to go. It depends on the mix and the key of the song, even, or so. They're both valid choices, So that's my.
It's funny you bring it up because I'm the same thing, because there's a certain sound to, like you said, to the I got my tuner on, but how they cut, even how they slice across the string. Yeah, it's a big difference, and one's warmer and fluffier, like you said. I like that way of putting it for sure.
And then I also different gauges that people use, because I always use the 1 millimeter. And then I realized that Stevie Ray used mediums, which seems
crazy.
incredibly long to me. but in some ways it almost tempers his, so he's not choking the guitar with his rather flamboyant picking, you know.
Yeah.
And then like you see, yeah, Robin's always used Fender heavies, right?
Yeah.
And then even all the celluloids sound different, because I had 2 or 3 from Charlie's Guitar Shop in Dallas, just air celluloids, and it sounded better than the Dunlop ones that I bought. So then I found some DeAndrea, which I think is the original one, and those sound like the Charlie's ones. So those are the best sounding celluloid to me. And again, I don't have endorsements for any of these things. It's just pure minuscule nerdery.
Yep.
You know.
But it's those little things that where the sort of magic lives in a lot of ways. You know.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I'm going back to everything kind of celluloid pick, straight wired Strat apart from the bridge pickup. Oh, lots of whatever cable,
Yeah.
It just that kind of thing. Something sounds kind of right about it after going around the houses of trying to increase fidelity and buffering and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, next I'll have a non-true past wah-wah or something.
Exactly. Well, maybe not. That's the one. That's definitely one where you're like, oh man, where it sounds like you said there's a.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a few more questions for you. Hey Matt, your signature pickups? What's the difference between the pre-CBS 50s, 60s set from Mark Foley? Do you know? I don't know if you know.
Not hugely. I haven't tried the 50s. The 60s are these. Actually, these are the 60s pre-CBS in this. They actually sound better than the original but rewound ones from the guitar for now. So they've just these are, well, the neck pickup on mine is a little bit brighter than this. Hang on one second, because they're right in the blue SBL behind me. Of course, it's a different guitar, and this is an ash body on this guitar, although it doesn't sound very ashy. It sounds a lot like, acoustically, a lot like the old one. But they're a tiny bit, little bit brighter than. Middle pickup's a little fatter. Good for that old school Jimmy Vaughan. And I heard Jimmy Vaughan used to put a bridge pickup in his middle pickup as well. I read that somewhere. He likes and he did get that in that in the T-Birds area. He really had that. Like real punchy. Watch some 80s live Fabulous Thunderbirds, and he's got a really punchy middle pickup sound, and Anson Thunderbird as well. That kind of sound is cool. And then the bridge pickup is, not super. It's a bit overwound. It's got the bass plate on there as well, So, yeah, they're a little. It's kind of the same thing, but slightly modernized, across the board, rather than, in an old Strat like yours, Jeff, as well. All 3 pickups are about the same, right?
Yeah.
In the Alp.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm pretty sure that's how Mark does the 50s and 60s. They're just.
Yeah,
right.
they just feel like they're all the same, for sure.
Yeah, there was no, sort of compensating a set, or what's the word I'm looking for that I can't.
Yeah, like the hot bridge, you're calibrating the set. Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
There was none of that. So the 50s and 60s like that, whereas these are calibrated.
Right.
So, and into my taste as well. So, yeah.
Which is great, because, everything... There could be the little modifications sometimes if you want. And look, I've played other 64 Strats that are a lot higher output than this one. So they vary wildly. It's amazing. And you're all over the place. And then, what I love about this one, each position sounds pretty great. Each one, whereas you try other Strats and you're like, that neck pickup isn't as good as the bridge pickup. It's so weird how that happens,
Old Gibson as well, with, I've only played a couple ever. They've all been great guitars. This is old 335s and old Les Pauls with PAFs. playing them live. And it's usually one or the other to me. It's like, oh, this is a neck pickup, Gibson, and oh, this is a bridge pickup,
Yes.
Gibson. I've only played a couple where I'm like, oh, this is both.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, old PAFs, sometimes you're on the neck pickup, sounds incredible. And I'm talking about plugging a Gibson into my rig just like this, so not tweaking anything,
right.
And it's like, okay, let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And you're on the pickup, it's incredible, and you flick to the bridge pickup, and it just completely takes a dump. There's no bottom end, or it's just like wow. But I've had it be the other way around as well, where it's just screaming Pearly Gates sounding bridge pickup, and the pickup's just wool, or whatever. So these are calibrated and slightly more, especially from a live perspective. I really want as much evenness of level in things. There's a charm to the original kind of everything low out and the same. There's a charm to that, but it's more difficult to get that evenness out of it live to me.
I mean, ultimately, I like a little hotter bridge, just to more even them out, because you do even them out with the height. So I have in my Tuttle, I've got the Throwbacks 1964, and I just have the slightly hotter bridge just for that. And it's not crazy hot. It just feels like when you go through all of them, you don't get that little drop off because of the. Just everybody knows it's not that the pickup's different. It's just the string is vibrating wider here than it is here. Yeah. So there's more output coming from the string at this location where you're picking it up than there is there. So it's not really. That's the difference. So with a little bit of a louder pickup, it just boosts the bridge position more. So it's a little technical angle of it. Hey, Mac Skinner. Hey, what's up, Mac? What's going on, Max? Mac. All right. Okay, Jack Hoban is asking, on a video, I saw you talked about playing major 7 scales over blues changes as opposed to diminished. Do you remember what that was?
Major 7?
Yeah, I don't.
Almost certainly didn't, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Right.
Perhaps major pentatonic is what I'm talking about. That would be.
Could be.
That's what I use most of the time on each change in the blues. The major pentatonic. That's my playing most of the time. That's all major pentatonic, but play like the blues, which of course B.B. King used major pentatonic a lot. My suggestion would be buy my TrueFire course called Playing the Changes, which is all about that. Available
at your website.
But major, yes, available from my website, please. Yeah. But major 7th, that's probably my least used note that I ever use, because I'm all my own songs are, for the 99% dominant 7th or minor 7th, there's not even many straight majors in my tunes. Certainly not many, but there's a lot of.
Right, sounds like a Beatles tune there for a second. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm off camera playing. What else do you have? So you mind playing for us a little bit? Put you on the spot?
Play?
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be another slow one.
That's cool. That's what I play. Yeah, man, I'd love to hear you play.
Comes to the door in the middle of my ridiculous door.
Oh, do you want to grab that? I could.
No, take away.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Playing,
We'll clap.
Yeah. I'm just imagining I've got a great band back there. Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. You know this, we're really good friends, but you're one of my absolute favorite guitar players. So every time you play, I'm always just, it's so great when you're friends or or badasses too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're like super unique tone, and every time you start playing, it's not tone, just the way you play is unique. Your phrasing is unique, all your little nuance. It's just always so inspiring to hear you play. So yeah, love it. Yeah.
I appreciate that. In these times like this, and we're also like away from those interactions, and it's trying to find new ways to be inspired by. Yeah, I've probably said last time, and the weirdest thing is, and the hardest thing is my inspiration and creativity really doesn't exist in a vacuum, and it's always been about playing with the band for me. From the minute I picked up a guitar, I formed a band the next month, and I've played with a band since then, since the age of 30 years now. Mm-hmm. So this is the longest time I've never played music as I do with other human beings, with improvising, and all of us improvise. All my bands have always been improvisational. It's completely open. We have the framework of a tune. We know how to start it and we know how to end it. But what happens in the middle is game on, And so
it's why you play guitar. It's why you play music.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, I know I haven't been gigging as much in the past few years, but it's the thing I miss. It's like the reason why I started playing and played in bands is that's just that the creating the moment at that point in time is what it's all about. It's the interaction with other human beings and having people in the audience that are getting this feedback from them, and the whole circuit that goes on during all of it. That's the point.
And I've whinged about it before, probably with you.
Sure.
But even when people started filming everything, it started changing that.
Yep.
Because not my gigs are not all supposed to be filmed. They're supposed to be remembered as an experience. Because all the great gigs that I went to when I was, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Dr. John, and the Fabulous Thunderbirds was my first real blues concert in probably 1991 or 2 or something. And I don't have a video of it on my phone, but I have the deepest burned-in memories in my mind of a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
And so we've gone all the way from that's what I do and what I always tried to do, and now we find ourselves on the other end of an entire thing, doing it by this, and it's a real clash for me creatively and psychologically, and so we're all finding our way through it, but. People ask me all the time about doing a TrueFire channel, about doing a YouTube channel, and maybe I'll get there. It's been a big enough leap to get even here with this for me, because it's almost the antithesis of what I do, and I wish it was easier for me. I hugely admire you with what you're doing here, and that's why I'm really, really happy to show up on it, because you do it so well. Thanks. Good quality, and because I don't want to be like live on Facebook from my bedroom,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And so I'm happy to turn up on this. And I'm fortunate that you provide the outlet for me. And I did one with Josh Smith last night on his channel and some other bits. So I'm lucky to have friends that I can utilize for it in this current time. But I don't know whether I'll ever get it myself.
I mean, first of all, you're always welcome anytime, even just to. Just shoot the shit. But it's been tough. I mean, we were talking about ourselves. I used to tour a lot, and then I kind of bands that were signed touring in Europe a lot, and then that it just never happened. And then I started, living in New York. You started teaching, and that started to be like a good way to make an income. And then you'd go on the road, and you come back, and you'd have no money, and everybody thinks you disappeared, because I was always in a band. You know what I mean? So you had your own thing, and you never kind of gave up. So what's been crazy about this is I started teaching, and that built everything, and I really enjoy it and love it, and then the TrueFire stuff and all that. And in the past 2 years, I did the record with Rob, and I started gigging more, I started touring, and I was like, great. I'm finding this balance now of this online stuff that I really enjoy, or the teaching, which I love, and the actually coming back to being a performer and writing material. And Rob and I have planned another record. And this is, and then I had talked to other guys about doing a different record, like a blues rock record. And then Rob and I were going to do a kick-ass guitar record, you know what I mean? So there's these things and something like full breaks on. And so for me, in the creative angle, that's why I dove into this stuff, because I really actually enjoy this. And then talking when we do these lives, which I really like a lot, is because you're interacting with people. Now, obviously, it's through a chat, but I feel like there's at least, it's part of what I got into playing guitar for, is sharing the experience,
Yeah, and not everything about every facet of what we do is for everybody.
Right.
I mean, I can understand why people wouldn't want to tour. Because there's it's like I speak negatively of some of these things that we do now, only for me. I mean, I only say it because it's not for me. Others may speak negatively of touring. I could see how you would, because it's rough sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
You give up a lot of other things. But for me, that is the real thing that I do. So I never speak negatively of that, and I've never, very rarely have I not wanted to be out there on the road doing it.
Yeah.
There's not much. So
a family changed things for me dramatically.
Of course, and I've given up stability in those respects many times. Not just
life choice. I made a life choice. Yeah. And I don't regret it at all. It's just it's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so often I think everybody gets lumped together. People are always asking me to do a YouTube channel or TrueFire channel and stuff like that, but I'm still not sure.
Yeah.
And I'm having to make peace with that myself and try and explain to people that I'm not sure that that's for me. I already do what I do. I can't really do it at the moment, but I will do it again one day. And I hope you come and get that from me while you enjoy people who are really great at doing this stuff, such as yourself. That's kind of how I'm starting to see it.
Well, I just did an interview with Tim Pierce for his channel, which is really nice. And he and I were having that discussion of, this is where I'm at now, and I'm going to put out other records, but my touring will never be like what you're doing. It's too late in the game for me at that point. Like, you've got a good base going, and I'm not even upset about it. It's just the reality of what it is, and I don't want to do that because of what I've established here. And people, I have a lot of, and Tim was saying is like, people are asking about the YouTube channel and how you're doing it, and you're getting a lot of followers. I'm like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I have people helping, like Phil, who's doing the moderating. That really helps. And I've, my friend Armando Armando brought us to Italy to play. But, helping up with just getting everything to look and sound good, and the investment in that, and then being consistent with it, and then trying to, it's a lot of work, and it's not a fly-by-night organization kind of thing.
And that's why I was talking with John, was saying, starting his thing, and he's like, man, you're all the way in if you're going to do it, and you got to provide content. And that's what I think. I don't feel like that would work for me on a. And also, I'll be completely honest, I've been in between the little projects I've got going, and I've done some really cool recordings that you will all eventually hear, with some cool people. But I'm also enjoying the fact. So I can't tour. I love doing that more than anything, but I can't. So I'm actually enjoying being at home for the first time. So I'm sort of making the most of that as well. And I'm in a position where I've kept my overheads very, very low in my life, so that I could be a touring musician playing blues. Funny enough, I've discovered I'm not that much poorer not touring. All the money that I'm not even joking about. It turns out that I've been on a hamster wheel for 20 years.
Right.
That it's self-perpetuating. So the money for the gig pays to get to the next gig, and also keeps me alive to go to the next gig.
Right.
But if I stop doing all of that, just my other very small income streams, and as I say, my overhead's very low in life, very deliberately, don't have a car or anything, I'm not really any worse off just staying in here making these videos for the time being.
Well,
So,
I reached that opposite point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I've made other commitments that I can't continue to do that. And just while we're at it, I see some people have hit the tip jar. Anything I make today, I'm splitting with Matt. If you guys want to help out, there's a Venmo and there's a PayPal, and I see some people are hitting that. I'm going to give it over to Matt as well. This pedal, the TrueFire courses, if you buy mine, as I talked about forever, you buy Matt's through his website, we get a larger percentage. The TrueFire people are great, but we directly see that money, and that's, if you want to help the artist, that's the way to do it. Just buy our merchandise, whether, a TrueFire course will cost you, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks. And it's a lifetime of stuff to work on. And and then that's how you can help us. If you like what we're doing, you want to help Matt. You guys are always been very generous to me. So if you're going to buy something today, go buy a Matt course,
That is it for me pretty much right now, apart from the odd little bits and bobs of jobs and Supremes and things like that. It is my TrueFire, and I'm thank goodness for that. I mean, hey, if this thing had have happened 10 years ago, this pandemic, well, we wouldn't have been doing this. Well, just 10 years ago, certainly 15 years ago, there was no such thing as a smartphone or Facebook.
I'm thinking back I'm thinking back to a second ago. You were talking about the filming. It just made me think. I want to bring it up. One of my students is in England, and he was at one of Kirk's shows. It was like about a year ago, and I'm friends with Kirk as well. So he's FaceTiming me Kirk live. He's like right in front of Kirk. I'm like, put down the phone. Because I see Kirk going like the guy's like right up front, and he's making this face like just, I'm like, stop, put down the phone. He's like, what? And I'm like, he doesn't want you to do this. Like, I don't need to see him play. Like, but it was a funny thing. He's standing right in front of him. And, Kirk's like the nicest guy on the planet. And you can tell he's just like, go like this, like,
Not Robin style.
Yeah, he gets pretty upset about it. Yeah. But
seen some foot flinging going
But
on.
the funniest thing with Robin is he'll get really upset, doesn't want people filming, but then he'll say, hey man, on this gig, let's do it like this version, and he'll send me a live version from YouTube.
Yeah, right.
He's like, it was really great here. I'm like, but you're okay with them filming it? And he's like, yeah, but they were far away. I think his main thing is flash and up front. Like if you're far enough away, and I'm kind of the same way, if you're in the front and you're just got this thing on me.
Makes you very self-conscious, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Changes what you do. It's important for people to know that it's the Schrodinger's cat or something of music. If you record it, you will change it. You can't record it and have it be the same as if you weren't recording it.
Yeah.
To me. So yeah, be far away if you want to film it.
Yeah, and
it's like anybody. If somebody followed you around with a camera doing your job, you would be like, all right, man, so it really is like that. You should be aware of how you affect an artist by making that choice for yourself and them.
Yeah.
Okay, ranting over.
No, it's cool. No, it's great. I think people need to know that and hear it from artists, because I think, it's not, thank you for coming to the gig, thank you for enjoying the music, but just if you could not do that in the front, because it changes my experience and what I can deliver to you, because there's other level, because all I'm thinking, this is my experience, like, all these gigs with Robin, everybody knows there's no recording, and the few that made it online are like the first gig on the fast tempo tune that was counted faster, and you know what I mean. And it's just like it was not, and I haven't been on the road that much, so it was like 0 to 100, and that's the little clip that gets on YouTube, and I'm like, son of a bitch.
There's one gig that in like the last 5 or 6 years that I actually really wish everybody had filmed the whole thing, and nobody did, and it was when me and Kirk and Josh played on Stevie Ray's 60th birthday, and we did a whole set, all three of us playing Stevie Ray tunes at the Maui Sugar Mill in LA there, the Monday night Cadillac Sax Monday night thing. And it was so much fun. Like, we're just like teenagers playing Stevie Ray tunes, 3 strats, all tuned E flat, 3 super reverbs, all playing all songs. We all sang different ones, but we all played the whole thing. there's like a 30-second clip went on Facebook, and I'm like, really? This is the one that didn't get. This is the one I actually wanted to get filmed. So
Yeah.
I don't so, right.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sorry. I'm just reading more things. Oh, someone wants to know what's on your listening lately.
You know what? I've been starting to get listening to some big band stuff, Count Basie and stuff like that. And I got
that's on all the time at my house, by the way. Big band, 40s music. My wife loves it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been sort of getting into that, and Frank Sinatra live at the Sands with the Count Basie Orchestra. I got the double vinyl, nicely done reissue of that, and I'm loving it. And it took me a long time to understand Frank. You know, like I was always like, coming from blues.
Yeah.
And now I got it. I love it, and his phrasing and his delivery and just what a sound. So I watched a documentary on Netflix recently. That's is it a two-parter? I think it is on Frank, and what a great story. And and Jay Stom, my manager, he used to work with Frank in Atlantic City.
Oh wow!
Back in the day, he's got some stories, Jay. One of Frank's fellas around there, and so he recommended that album to me and stuff. So so Frank Sinatra, I've been listening to some Frank.
Excellent.
And then Jay brought over some other. I've got a stack of original early LPs that need a bit of dusting off. We're going through, but it's all jazz and big band stuff. So a lot of that. What else? Same stuff as always, though.
We just got to.
I watched B.B. King documentary last night for my own to try and erase the debate from my mind.
Right. Yeah.
And I needed a very strong palate cleanser, and so I have this B.B. King documentary. I don't think it's even on YouTube. I should put it on YouTube because it's amazing, but it's from 1990 from the BBC. Paul Jones, the British singer and harmonica player, has the blues show, or had the blues show for years on BBC Radio, and was also the singer in Manfred Mann, and that guy. He narrates it, and so it was made while BB was alive, and it's all about his homecoming concert in Indianola that he would do every year, and then playing in the penitentiaries, and it's quite covers quite a bit of his civil rights type stuff that's very interesting. So I watched that again last night, and also has the most incredible playing in it from like 1990, where he's just tearing up these chromatic and diminished lines like you wouldn't think it was BB, but I taped that off the TV in 1990.
You played that for me in the van in Italy. We were driving, me, you, and Christine, and I had never heard him play like that.
Exactly, and whereas I've been listening to that for 30 years, so there's so much of that era of BB in me. I've said this before, not that Robin wasn't a huge game-changing influence, but a lot of times things I'm doing that people think are Robin type stuff is actually from that period of BB that I've stole it from him.
Interesting.
So
I just want to quickly, we got two people in the top chat. Thank you so much. Neil Higgins, I've got a bunch of both of your courses and really enjoyed them. What do you think is most important things to practice? I'm good on scales, but my soloing is especially pretty much pentatonic. So you want to grab that one? And then I'll let you.
Yeah. Well, the first most important thing is timing, groove, feel, time, phrasing. Then it doesn't matter if you're only pentatonic, if you can really groove it, like that's just the notes of part of the pentatonic. So that would be it for me. It's all timing, Listen to Albert King, very, very small vocabulary, but could say absolutely more than anyone with it. So I always come at things from that direction. Beyond that, when you say pentatonic, it should be equally as understood between minor and major as well. Like major tends to take a back seat for people, I think, and or they treat it as the minor pentatonic
three frets down.
Yeah, but that it's not. It's its own thing. It should be seen and understood as its own thing, and then you should be able to see them over. Well, I say see, yeah, visually, but then the next thing, more than anything, is knowing how things sound when you play them by doing it. Your ears. So, with a lot of clinics and teaching stuff, it seems like people are using every single sense that they have. Reading tab, looking at their fingers, feeling their way on they're using every single sense except their ears to play music.
Yeah.
And it's like, then it's like, but don't you hear what it doesn't sound good, that though, does it? So
Right.
it doesn't matter if your fingers are in the right place if it doesn't sound good. So that would be the other thing, making sure you actually can hear what you are playing and are in control of that. So you can go dum, da, da, dum, boo, and know where those notes are.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and that comes from repetition and doing a lot and listening. So there you go.
I would honestly give the same exact answer. And we found this, we were kind of blabbing about it earlier, and we've talked about this before because we've done workshops and clinics together, and the stuff I've done with Rob, and people are like, oh, I want to know about diminished, and then you get to hear them play, and they don't have the real fundamental pentatonic phrasing down or inflection. And I just say to them, diminished doesn't mean anything if you can't do what you just did. If you're just trying to play, if you can't get that, if you can't get that to just sit right in a groove and just to add,
adding it diminished is not going to help.
It's not going to help. Yeah, it's just going to sound bad. And then one thing that I would add to what you said as well is when you started laying down a groove, you just already started moving. You have an internal sense of time going on always when you're playing. Like I knew exactly what your tempo was like 2 seconds into you starting to play.
Yeah. And that's it. It's the guitar, particularly rhythm, but the guitar is not an out there thing that then you put onto it, from outside rhythm, and it's everything is in you and it comes out via the guitar, and you have to see it that way. So when I'm teaching somebody's like staring at it like they're looking at it like this thing, what do I do with this thing? You're already in the wrong view of it, to me, when you're like as though it's over here somewhere and like, all right, well, how do I touch this thing?
Yeah.
No, you close your eyes and you hear some music, and then you find it as best you can inside you. And it's very hard to explain, but like you say, yeah, you got to move, you got to breathe and feel the music. It's not going to come from anywhere else and be, projected onto the guitar. It doesn't exist like that.
And the other thing that I tell everyone is don't play any bullshit. Right? Always play with intent. Like whether it's, somebody like, they'll just play something. You're like, that was almost like you blurting out something totally nonsensically. So you always want to play with intent. Like I'm going to play the instrument. And while you were soloing, forgive me, I don't know who commented, but they made a comment when you were playing for that, saying like guys like us and pros like always commit every time they're playing. Now I'm paraphrasing what the comment was, and I thought I did want to get that back to him, so we kind of get this. So when you're playing, you're never screwing around. You're playing the guitar. Yeah.
And in fact, it's like a headspace that I have to be in, and occasionally, like when we're doing this, and I try and demonstrate something, switching from talking to a computer to playing, I'll be confused for a second. Whereas when I walk on stage, I'm out the gate. I'm in, I'm on, and I very rarely make much of a mistake all night. Because that's where I exist. That's the real me.
Yeah.
So whereas having to switch brain back and forth between just communicating via the internet and playing takes me a second.
Well, you're talking about, when you're teaching in these things, and people think like knowing the names of the notes and the fingerboard and all things, I think are essential. Of course, you need to know your instrument, blah blah blah. But the main thing is you need to try to create something, and that's what you're talking about. Whether it's hearing somebody play the simplest thing is going to be much cooler than somebody trying to fumble through something that they can't quite cut yet.
Well, I always say, as well, yeah, I'd rather hear somebody play something real simple, melodic, and tasteful with 3 notes. Mm-hmm. Look at Albert King. Go right now after you've finished watching us and watch some Albert King. Yeah. Just go to the Look at Albert King Fillmore. And then he doesn't even move his hand up and down the neck for the most part. He's ringing the notes out. Well, why is that? So he's like, no one could even stand next to him and sound even half as good. He just destroys everybody by doing nothing.
Yeah.
On paper. But he's doing everything to create music. And so that's the thing, is to playing the guitar and learning the guitar and making music are different things.
Absolutely.
The goal is to use one to do the other for me. And, that's why I've never been any technique I have is a byproduct of wanting to play something musically. We've talked about this before, I think, but that's okay. I made that choice to not pursue technical ability for the sake of it. It didn't interest me. I wouldn't practice like that. It's like that's the most boring. I'd rather go to the pub and have a beer.
Yeah, no, it's true. I understand. Richard Henry gave us in the top chat. Thank you so much. He said, "Hi, Matt and Jeff. Hope you're both well." Do you know Richard Henry?
I do, from Northern Ireland, I believe.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Richard. We appreciate it. And I'm seeing that people are being generous. So thanks again, guys. We really, really appreciate it. Just funny, it's got a text from the guys at Throwback Pickups asking if you customers want to know what pickups you used in your Les Paul last week. Throwback SLE 101s. There you go. I'll tell him too, but kind of funny. All right, so we just want to wrap it up soon because you've been really generous with your time. We've been on for like...
It's been fun, actually. Thank you, Jeff. I've enjoyed it today. Yeah. Sometimes I've been really off the grid lately, not social media. I hadn't posted anything in 2 weeks till yesterday, and which is good as well,
Sure.
So then I appreciate you dragging me out of my...
my pleasure. And I think... I did the interview series, but I kind of like this. It's kind of just here and there having people on and having you, because you're such, there's, like everybody I've chosen if you guys are kind of new to the channel, there's a lot of interviews I did when COVID first hit with Josh and Robin Ford and Shane Terrio's a great one, and Mark Letary. So if you go look back, there's a lot of really fun, great interviews that I hope people go back and look at because there's all this great information in them. But
this is very much like what we would just do anyway.
That's what I'm saying. We're just hanging out talking. Look at when you're here. This is what we, there might be alcohol involved, but
yeah, it might be in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to be good on a diet, drinking 0-calorie seltzer water.
Oh, man.
There you go. How rock and roll.
Yeah.
I am at the moment.
Angus Clark, what's up, man? Angus Clark. Personal friend of mine. All right. Michael Cope's here. So one last thing. So you have a newer TrueFire course that just came out, right?
You do. We should mention that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a sec before we go.
Sold in copies. I think it slipped under the radar. Had In the Jam come out in July, which, I think the proprietary software of In the Jam perhaps keeps that off some people's radar, but it's really cool. That's my most recent touring band. Raul Valdez, Tim Teeley-Waits, and Darby Wolf, the guys that you've played with at the Iridium there, Jeff. They did all the tracks for that. So it's like 10 tracks of basically me and my band, and you can mix them yourself. So if you're a bass player, you can solo Tim and check out what he's doing, or take him out and play along with me, and same for everything, and there's a few instrumental versions of my own songs there as well. So really pleased with that one. And you get your own little interface when the TrueFire software, your little mixer, and you can pick the camera angles yourself and everything, can't you? It's really cool. Yeah. And then just a couple of weeks ago, my rhythm course came out, which is most requested by a lot of people every time I was doing a TrueFire course. But compared to how the first couple of Blue Speaks have been selling, they obviously forgot they wanted it. So, everybody asked for it, and nobody's bought it. No, I'm kidding. It's doing all right, but maybe it's not quite as sexy as ripping cool solos. But
This is always the case with those TrueFire courses. You put one out, you're like, it sells great, and the next one you put out, you're like, hello, or
yeah.
And then I've had ones that blues arpeggios was like a big hit. I'm like, really? Like the most, educational instruction, like, here are these arpeggios, this is how I'm using, which I could understand, but there was, I try to make artistry with it, but so you never know. And I just got bitten by a mosquito. I see that guy floating around my camera, and I'm just looked down and just got, that's
in the house as well. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know. Brooklyn mosquito, they're extra mean, I think,
I got plenty here, but they normally leave me alone these days.
Yeah. All right, so anything else you want to mention before we go?
So we've got that. We've got few Supremes left, signed, ship them worldwide. But please, if you buy them on worldwide, be patient, man. The post has been taking like 2 months to get to people somewhere in the world from here, because the only affordable way is via the United States Postal Service, and there's been a lot of shenanigans going on with that lately.
No.
So please, I'll send them internationally, but be patient unless you want to give me like an extra $100 to FedEx it,
Right.
And that's Supreme's pickups. I can't remember now what our TrueFire courses. And you know what? I have a live album on my website as well called 10 from the Road, which is a really good lineup of my organ trio with Johnny Henderson and Kevin Hayes, the great drummer Kevin Hayes, who was with Robert Cray for many years and played with Albert Collins, and Johnny Hooker is on John Lee's records, and so he's drumming on that one. Great guy, great, good luck, great drummer. Sorry, I got all Spinal Tap there for a second.
Great.
Yeah, that's actually, you can just download that as MP3s or WAV files from my website. I never mentioned that, but it was never released, like it's not on streaming or anything like that. It was always on just gigs. We just pressed it for gigs, and now CDs are sold out, but you can download it on the website. So if you don't have that, that's I own all the rights to that record, which means I actually make any money at all.
Okay, so
like the other ones.
I'll translate. Buy that record. Go to Matt's site right now. It's gonna be great. You just buy it, and he gets the money.
Yeah.
Period. You can't stream it. Just buy it. How much is it? Like, how much are you selling it for?
$10.
I mean,
maybe
on.
not.
Right. Just
MP3.
Yeah, 10.
Maybe you can get it lossless as well if you want. If you're a resolution person, So it's like maybe it's like 15 for FLAC files. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Cool.
Tennis.
I just want to clear something. I love my blues arpeggios course. People are like, that's one of my favorite courses. Thanks so much, everyone loves it. I was saying it's a drier course, a less sexy course, but I made it because there was a hole in my educational material at TrueFire. I thought, like, I keep on talking about it. Why don't I just do a video on them? And
I'm going to go look at it now.
There's that mosquito. All right. I love live television, right? Okay. So once again, thanks for being here, Matt. We'll have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime you want to come back on, you are always most welcome. Thank you to everybody who chipped in, who bought some of Matt's stuff today. We really appreciate it. He appreciates it. Thanks to Phil Mingan, of course, for moderating and keeping all the stuff going. And if you like what you saw and you're new to my channel, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Follow Matt on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram, because all these things just start to generate, and it helps us all make a living,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. All right, guys.
So we can do what we do.
Yeah. So we'll see you soon. I'll see you next week, same time. And thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you supporting.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. All right.